The room went completely silent. Every eye locked on him. The man who had never raised his voice, never argued, never begged for attention. Yet now, even the loudest people in the company were afraid to breathe. He stood at the front of the boardroom, hands behind his back, face calm, no anger, no smile, just presence. The CEO shifted in his chair. The senior manager stared at the table. People who used to mock him avoided eye contact. No one interrupted. No one laughed. No one dared. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The documents on the screen spoke for him. The silence crushed the room harder than any speech could. This was the same man they once ignored. The same man they called weak. The same man they thought would never matter. Now they knew something was about to change. Something irreversible. And the question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. How did a man who never spoke up become the most powerful person in the room? This all started on a quiet Monday morning, the kind where nothing special seemed possible. I was just another employee in a mid-sized tech company, sitting in the same cubicle I'd occupied for 3 years. Same gray walls, same flickering monitor, same polite nods from coworkers who barely knew my name. My name is Arman. I wasn't the smartest person in the office. I wasn't the loudest. I wasn't the most confident. I was simply reliable. The kind of person people remembered only when something needed to be fixed quietly. Our office was full of personalities. There was Zane, the senior developer, who dominated every meeting and laughed the loudest at his own jokes. There was Farah, the ambitious project manager who loved taking credit for team wins. And then there was Mr. Khalid, the CEO, charismatic, respected, and slightly intimidating. Every morning, I arrived early, made my coffee, and started reviewing system logs before anyone else came in. I liked the silence. I liked the predictability. My life outside work was just as routine small apartment, evening walks, books before sleep. No drama, no big dreams. People often mistook silence for weakness. They'd talk over me in meetings. They'd assign me extra tasks without asking. Sometimes they joked that I was invisible Arman. I laughed with them, not because it didn't hurt, but because arguing felt pointless. Words were cheap. I believed actions mattered more. One evening, while everyone rushed home, I stayed late to fix a server bug that had crashed a client's platform. It wasn't my responsibility, but I knew how to solve it. I didn't tell anyone. The next day, the system was stable, and Farah proudly announced that her team had resolved the issue overnight. Everyone applauded. I sat there quietly. No credit, no complaint. But something inside me shifted. I started noticing patterns, how decisions were made, who controlled information, who shaped narratives. The loudest people weren't always the most competent. They were just the most visible. Respect wasn't given to the best worker. It was given to the most strategic presence. So I began observing, listening, collecting details, not to expose anyone, not to compete, just to understand how power actually worked. Late at night, alone in the office, I opened old company reports, internal dashboards, archived emails. I wasn't hacking. I had access as part of my role, but no one else bothered to look this deeply. And slowly, I realized something unsettling. Our company's success depended on systems that only a few people truly understood. Systems that I quietly maintained. Systems that could fail without warning. And nobody knew how fragile everything really was except me. That realization felt heavy, dangerous, almost like holding a secret weapon you never asked for. I didn't plan anything. I didn't tell anyone. I just kept working, quietly, but the calm routine I loved was already cracking. And I had no idea how fast it would spiral into something that would change every relationship in that building forever. At first, nothing changed on the surface. People still joked, still talked over me. still treated me like background noise. But I started changing, not outwardly, internally. I began documenting everything, not in a paranoid way, more like a pilot checking instruments. Every system dependency, every undocumented process, every shortcut people took that could explode later. I noticed Zane often pushed unfinished code to production and relied on me to quietly patch it. I noticed Farah edited reports to make her team look flawless. I noticed how the CEO trusted dashboards without knowing how easily numbers could be manipulated. I never confronted anyone. I never complained. I just collected facts. Then the first incident happened. A major client system went down during peak hours. Everyone panicked. Meetings were called. Voices were raised. Zane blamed the infrastructure. Farah blamed the developers. The CEO demanded answers. I already knew the cause. A small configuration change. Zane had rushed through and never documented. I fixed it in minutes, restored the system, and quietly emailed the technical explanation to the leadership team. No emotion, no accusation, just facts. For the first time, people looked at me differently, not as invisible, as useful. But usefulness is a double-edged sword. Soon, they started relying on me for critical decisions. They stopped mocking. They started asking. Yet something felt off. Their respect wasn't genuine. It was transactional. They needed me, but they still didn't see me as powerful. Then came the second incident. During a quarterly review, Farah presented performance metrics that looked perfect. I knew the raw data didn't match, not because I wanted to expose her, but because I maintained the analytics pipeline. The CEO praised her publicly. I said nothing. But later that evening, I sent a simple automated report to the executive mailing list. It included raw system logs, unfiltered metrics, and a comparison chart. No commentary, no blame, just data. The next day, the room felt colder. Farah didn't accuse me. She couldn't. The numbers were real. People started whispering. Arman has access to everything. He knows how the systems really work. He's dangerous if he wants to be. I heard these things from the coffee machine, from hallway conversations. I never confirmed or denied. Silence makes rumors grow. Then came the third incident, the one that pushed everything toward a breaking point. A security audit flagged multiple vulnerabilities. The external auditors wanted to know who was responsible. Panic spread. Legal teams got involved. The CEO demanded an internal investigation. I already had a private list of every vulnerability, who introduced it, and how long it had been ignored. I had never used it. The CEO called me into his office. He asked calmly, "Arman, how bad is it?" I didn't answer directly. I handed him a folder. Inside were timelines, logs, screenshots, and automated system reports. No opinions, just reality. He read in silence. His face changed. After that meeting, everything shifted. Meetings paused when I walked in. People lowered their voices. No one joked anymore. They didn't know what I knew. They didn't know what I might share. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the fear of what someone silent might reveal. Zan stopped pushing reckless updates. Farah started double-checking reports. The CEO invited me to strategy discussions I had never been part of. Still, I never raised my voice, never threatened, never bragged. My silence became a presence, but silence also isolates. People stopped being friendly. Conversations ended when I approached. Some colleagues avoided me completely. I felt like a walking audit trail. One night, as I stayed late again, I overheard Zane and Farah talking in the hallway. "He's building a case against all of us," Zane whispered. "He wants power," Farah replied. "He's waiting to strike." They were wrong. I never planned to strike. But fear doesn't need truth to grow. The CEO soon scheduled a closed-door board meeting. Only senior leadership and I were invited. That alone triggered panic across the company. People assumed I was about to expose everything. Careers felt fragile. The boardroom doors closed. Click. Silence. The CEO nodded at me. "Show us." I walked to the screen. Plugged in my laptop. No introduction. No greeting. Slides appeared. Logs. Timelines. Risk maps. Every hidden weakness. Every ignored warning. Every shortcut. Zain clenched his jaw. Farah's hands trembled on her notebook. I spoke for the first time in weeks. Not loudly. Not emotionally. "This is the current state of the company." Gasps. Whispers. The CEO interrupted. "Who's responsible?" I looked at him. Then back at the screen. "No one person," I said. "Everyone who valued appearance over reality." The room exploded. "This is a threat," Farah snapped. "You're trying to control us with fear," Zain said. "You've been watching us like a spy." I stayed calm. "I never hid anything," I said. "You hid from the truth." The CEO stood. "Enough. Arman, what do you want?" I closed the laptop. "I want systems that don't collapse when people lie," I said. "I want transparency. I want responsibility." Silence returned, and the CEO did something no one expected. He turned to the board. "We're restructuring. Arman will lead our internal systems and risk division." Eyes widened, faces drained of color. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just nodded. And in that moment, without shouting, without begging, without threatening, I had become the most powerful person in the room. The announcement didn't end the tension. It transformed it. The next morning, the office felt like a different world. People arrived early. Conversations were quieter. Emails were formal, careful, documented. The casual shortcuts vanished overnight. I didn't change my behavior, but everything around me did. As head of the new systems and risk division, I didn't fire anyone. I didn't humiliate anyone. I didn't confront people publicly. Instead, I redesigned processes so that no one could hide behind silence or exaggeration again. Automated audits ran daily. Dashboards showed raw metrics in real time. Every major decision required documented reasoning. Zain stopped improvising. He began scheduling code reviews with me, asking for feedback instead of ignoring protocols. Farah started sending draft reports for verification before presentations. The CEO invited me to weekly strategic briefings, not as a technician, but as a silent check on reality. Some people resented me. Some feared me. Some admired me. But no one ignored me anymore. The irony was heavy. I had spent years wanting to be seen. Now that I was, it felt lonely. Colleagues who once joked with me kept conversations professional. Lunch invitations stopped. Casual hallway chats disappeared. Respect had a cost. One evening, I stayed late again, staring at the city lights through the office window. The systems were stable. The company was stronger. No one dared manipulate data anymore. Transparency had become the culture. But I wondered if I had become the very thing I once disliked: distant, unreadable, intimidating. The CEO joined me quietly. "You changed this place," he said. "I just showed the truth," I replied. He nodded. Truth changes power structures. Over the next months, performance improved. Clients trusted us more. Audits praised our controls. Internally, people stopped competing for credit and started documenting real work. Fear slowly transformed into respect. Not for me personally, but for the systems I built. Zain once stopped by my desk. "You're not what we thought," he admitted. "You could have destroyed us." "I didn't want power," I said. "I wanted stability." He smiled awkwardly. "Still, you earned something rare here." He walked away, leaving me alone again with the quiet hum of servers and fluorescent lights. Respect had arrived, not through shouting, not through arguing, through consistency, through silence, through undeniable evidence. And as the company stabilized, the fear that surrounded me slowly faded, replaced by something deeper, something steadier. Trust. But I knew the final lesson wasn't about them. It was about me. Power didn't come from words. It came from being so reliable, so prepared, so undeniable, that words became unnecessary. A year later, I stood in the same boardroom where everything had changed. This time, there was no tension, no fear, just quiet focus. Zain led a technical review with precision. Farah presented honest metrics, flaws included. The CEO listened, asked questions, and trusted the data because the data was real. No one looked at me with suspicion anymore. They looked at me with confidence. Outside work, my life stayed simple. Same apartment, same walks, same books at night. But inside, I felt different. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't loud either. I had learned that true respect isn't begged for, and it isn't forced. It's built quietly, brick by brick, day by day. One new intern once asked me, "Sir, how do you make people respect you without speaking much?" I paused, then said only one sentence. "Be the person the truth depends on." He nodded, not fully understanding, but someday he would. And as I looked around the company I helped stabilize, I realized something powerful. The loudest person in the room rarely holds the most power. The silent one who cannot be ignored always does.